There's two types of testing. One is what manufacturers want you to do and believe in, marketing promise, and real life testing comes from experience from real life roofers. I'm with you from here. He is a commercial roofer. He's going to share with you why he does what he does and why it's different from recommendations he's getting from commercial coating companies these days. So talk to me about the seams, what you've been finding out, and what they're not requiring today, but why you rule against it.
Okay, so the one thing that used to be, from what I gather of being in the industry 5 years, before that was mostly fabric. Everyone would push fabric more so.
And we're talking about Conklin.
Even like, American Weather Star, Alta, they all have their own fabrics to some extent or whatever. Some are Kevlar or whatever, some are different.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so when we have worked on a lot of buildings where we've seen rust on the other side of that. For instance, last year, we worked on this building, 226,000 square foot. There was about a 40,000 square foot section that somebody had done with Conklin 10 years ago. And the vertical seams were rusted and the horizontal seams.
Vertical seams.
Both of them, horizontal and vertical. Typically, you don't so much see it on verticals as you do horizontals, but even the vertical seams were rusted. So we pulled it all up.
But no rust in places
in between, no.
In between, okay.
No. And so, but there was no primer. And so whenever a company comes to me and is like, well,
I'll interrupt you there. Was it manufacturer defect or was it installation error?
Applicator. It's all coatings. Typically, I would say if you do your job right, if you really care about your customer, it's more times than not, it's an applicator error. Now, because it, regardless of what my personal theory is, it doesn't matter what the manufacturer recommends. It's your job as the applicator to do what you know is best for that roof.
And so what happened to that Conklin job? So 10 years, what's the warranty? It's no more than, is it more than 10 years?
Well, they had 10 years at the time.
Got it.
So apparently it was 10 years. So anyway, the guys, that company didn't want to go back with the Conklin system, right? So we proposed American Weather Star. We did the system. And so, but then when you say American Weather Star, for instance, American Weather Star does not require primer or fabric. I won't do that. I just don't think that's, because of having seen rust again, I think that every roof requires primer. So we made an agreement with American Weather Star. We have our own system with them where they still warrant it. We just go over, they have like a 4-step system. We have a 7-step system. We have our own in-house 7-step system. Whenever I use a coating manufacturer, I go to them and I say, here's what I want to do. Will you warrant this with us? And so typically they always do.
Do they think that you overkill it?
Yes. But and we spend more money.
But you buy more product.
We buy more products, so it's a benefit to them. They think we go overkill, but for us, it's not about. It's about what's going to be best for our customer. Because
explain to me why it's rusting in the seams. What seams are made of? I mean, the fabric.
If your fabric, if you are getting rust under your fabric, you have an air gap. Air and moisture will create rust. If, for instance, you have, so let's just go with horizontal seams, because that's a different animal. So if you have a horizontal seam, and let's say you have a gap of, how you walk some metal roofs, and then you have like a half-inch gap or quarter-inch gap on your horizontal seam because the metal is just not sitting tight. Well, if you put fabric over that, 100% that's going to rust because you're going to have that air gap. Now, if that is completely tight, so what we would do in that case is if it's a gap there, we're going to screw down and then we're going to caulk it. We're going to use a urethane-based heavy-duty caulk to and go like 5 inches so that it gets a lot of flexibility and strength. But now if that seam is sitting tight and you put a fabric on and you prime it, you put a heavy base and a heavy top over your fabric, you won't have an issue. That's been our experience. So that's what we've been doing. But then there's this roof in Mississippi for 12 years. They told us for 12 years they had a different roofer every year. People tried fabric on seams. People tried foam. People tried coatings, different. I mean, we spent 3 weeks taking off patchwork on that roof. And we did a Conklin system. Never had one leak on 80,000 square foot test. So what we're now finding out, just now, literally this week, as we speak, I have still yet to go inspect this roof, but so we did over a 2-year period, we did 160,000 square foot of this roof with Conklin, never had a leak. But again, we went over and beyond. We took all the old patchwork off, everything else, spent a lot of time and money and resources there on this test. And then we did 80,000 square foot, same roof with American Weather Star. So we're holding the warranty on this building. We made a deal with the ownership, like we're going to warrant this because we're testing your roof. We're doing a test. We agree, everyone knows what's going on here. So then now I got a call this week because every year that he's like, we got a building 4 for you to do this year. He's like, by the way, I got a patchwork for you to do on building 1 and building 3. So building 1 is mostly Conklin. Building 3 is only about 6,000 square foot of it is Conklin. So it's going to be really interesting to go back and see it. And he didn't say a leak, so I'm not exactly sure what the patch means. Maybe there's wind damage. I don't know. But if I go back there, what we're finding is American Weather Star's coatings, for instance, are quite a bit thinner. So if you're having to fabric it in, you're going to have to use a lot more product, whereas Conklin's base coat is very thick, and even Conklin's top coat is thicker. Now, your spec sheets are different. Conklin's tensile strength isn't as high, their elongation isn't as high, things like that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's field performance, right? Where you learn what's performing the best or not. So
you're testing both products in real life, see what performs
next
better.
to each other.
Next to each other. Are you going to make a decision which product you're going to be installing for life, or are you going to keep going with 2? What other factors that help the decision right now?
So the one factor is that we have to go by is the ownership or the leadership level of the manufacturing company, right? Or your service level, if you want to call it that. So I would, if I go there and I find out that it's American Weather Star system that's not performing as well, and then we had this talk with the company, okay, we did this, you never had any issues, you did this, we have issues, we're going to solely use Conklin from there forward on that. However, the problem is with going all into one company, I used to have all my eggs in one basket with Conklin because we didn't have any issues with their product. 2020 hit. They didn't have any issue in 2020. 2021 came around. We had around 300,000 to 400,000 square foot of metal roofs sold. Went to put an order into Conklin, 8 weeks. Like, what the crap? I can't wait 8 weeks on material, right? And so they're like, well, you can just get a credit line. And, I'm like, well, I don't want a credit line. We pay for everything as we go. I don't want to owe people money. And so anyway, so then I was like, okay, well, if that's the only thing I can do, applied for a credit line with them. They're like, oh, we'll give you $20,000. I'm like, I just bought $1.3 million worth of coatings from you. You're going to give me a $20,000 credit line. So what we found that year was pretty frustrating with Conklin. They cared every month. They were holding meetings to sign up more people, but they couldn't even serve their existing customers. And that was really frustrating. So I'll never put all my eggs in one basket. What we'll do is we'll go to a company like American Weather Star, who's been incredible in every level. I mean, I get a call from the owner every month. How you doing? Do you need anything? Things like that. We bought a ton of coatings from them. And we'll say, look, here's what's not performing. This is what we'd like to see. Can you do this for us? They've sent us a barrel of new product that we're testing for us. So if I go to Brian and I say, hey, Brian, can we create a different product? And he'll do it. And because of the volume that we buy. And so it's just, so we have to look at that. But as of right now, I mean, quite honestly, if you do your prep right, the Conklin system's holding up better than anything we've tried.
Love it. So lessons that I personally get from this story is, number one, you guys have to go above and beyond minimum standard, minimum requirements. How many people in the industry are going above the standard? If you want to go from good to great, Be like this guy. Go above the minimum code, above minimum requirement. I don't care what manufacturer says. You do what's right in your opinion. You are a real life tester. You know what works, what doesn't work. If you've seen it work or failed, make a decision based on your experience, not on marketing promise of manufacturer. And number two, do business with the good people. Do what's good for your business, not their business, because what he just described is very common practice in business. Brands keep selling even when they cannot fulfill their demand. Those are two top lessons from this story. Comment below what you think. I'll see you later.